So thanks for that introduction. I'm Dave Erickson with freeconferencecall.com. I wanted to talk about this today because I've come to Miami a number of times and never seen the beach, but I don't think I'm going to get away with that. I actually asked my sales guy, I said, hey, can you send me some content? And he sent me a picture of the beach. But what I am going to talk about today is my company, a little bit about how I got started, where that took me as kind of the success of the business hit, and where what direction I'm heading in now, and some of the difficulties that come with the direction. First, I'd like to start with an audience survey. I'm glad I didn't put how many people use freeconferencecall.com because I wouldn't want to take Rich's content, but how many people, I know everybody has a telephone, but how many people in the audience feel that they spend more than 6 cents per minute when they make a telephone call? If you look at your unlimited long distance plan, less than 6 cents? So it's like split even. How many use Skype today? Almost everybody. And Google Voice? How many people have an IP phone system in their office? Holy cow. How many of those are HD? Okay. Freeconferencecall.com was established in 2001. It's a privately held company. We specialize in one-to-many communications, things like audio conferencing accounts, but also hotlines or messaging trees. We serve not only freeconferencecall.com, but 12 other sites. We have about 12 million users monthly. Our revenue model comes from access revenue from the PSTN, as well as cross-selling or upselling to other services. We don't, require that anybody buys anything. Free conference call is free to use. We greatly appreciate viral marketing advantage. What happens at Free Conference Call is that one person invites 5 other people on average to a conference call. When they get into the conference call, they hear this service is provided by freeconferencecall.com, and they ask the host, what's that? And they say, well, you should try it out. I use it. It works. And then they go and get an account. When I started the company, I was completely cash-strapped. I mean, I had no money at all. Venture capital just wasn't an option for me. I was able to hobble together a voice router that had no moving parts and put a conferencing application on top of it. But the conferencing application that I put on top of it was really simple. Had a single access code. All the accounts were turned on because it was a free service. I didn't have to worry about authenticating and locking people out of things. And the website and the bridge weren't connected. And the website was hosted at GoDaddy for, I think, $9.95 for the first 3 years of the company's existence. We had great customer support. I did the customer support 24 hours a day by myself in the beginning for the first 2 years. Heard everything that everybody had to say. We had about 1 customer service call to every 10,000 connections on our service. And the reason was the voice router that we used with no moving parts was extremely efficient and worked very, very well. The viral marketing that I talked about before couldn't be stopped. I started out with pay-per-click advertising, got people interested in the service, and it just kept growing and growing and growing. And at one point, I couldn't afford more voice routers, and I pulled back on all my marketing money, and it wouldn't stop growing because people kept inviting people and in conference calling. It's a real problem because it's not that one conference call gets ruined. They all get ruined because they're all missing a participant here or there. What that led to is as I got to success, I said, well, I need to get out of this really simple system that I built and build the ultimate. And I went out and I bought a systems integrator called WideVoice. It's in booth 632. Also they're doing a presentation. But it was the idea of going to a media server and building everything on a software-based system, completely software-based, no DSP cards, just for reliability and scalability purposes. The scalability, my voice routers could do 1,000 ports. My media servers can do 10,000 concurrent calls on a single chassis. They're geodiverse, so they're able to take callers in different areas in the world and connect through thin pipes and make conference calls connect that way. Has web-based controls, and the coolest out of all of it is I discovered HD voice in 2006, looking at trying to build the best bridge on the planet. I asked my engineers to send me something to explain why it's so reliable. This is what they sent me. Thank you, engineering. The web controls, you're able to see the participants in the call. You're able to mute them. You're able to drop them. It has a Q&A feature so they can raise their hand if they're on mute. They pop up. You can unmute them. It has active speaker control so you can see who's making the noise with the lawnmower in the background in the conference call and mute them out, or who's speaking. When it records, it also has a broadcasting feature so that if you record conferences, you can play them back in other conferences. You can put ambient music behind your conference call. You can put Anthony Robbins in your conference call if you'd like to, and broadcast it out to the individuals in the call. And the recording is done by channel. So you have the capabilities when you record a conference call to not only play it back, but play back individual participants in the call. If there was something somebody said and you wanted to get to what it was that person said, you could go through just that channel and listen to just what that person said during the call. Turns out, after all of that work in designing the best bridge on the planet, that what the customer wanted my original design. The customer wanted the single access code. The customer wanted what I put on that voice router because it was simple. And the funny thing about that is, to me, had I had the money or had I had a venture backer, I think I would have missed that opportunity. I wouldn't have made it so simple. I would have started out with all the fancy web controls and all that neat stuff. The web controls are great, and there's a use for them. And I believe it's the corner cases. It's not the big ball in the middle of the market. There's a lot of neat features. Probably the biggest thing that stood out was the HD. And so now the company our companies are making a move towards high-definition voice. And the reason why we're moving towards high-definition voice is because today the current telephone that you talk on only transmits 20% of your voice, which it seems like we should be able to do a lot better than that at this stage in the game. The take rate right now is slow, but it's getting better. When we sell conferencing bridges, all of them go with HD voice. Everybody that's buying a conferencing bridge from us right now is insisting upon having HD voice. I like it. I use it. We have offices around the world, Russia, Ukraine, Hong Kong. Some of the people that I work with now have accents. And when we're talking in high definition, it's just easier to understand them. You can read a newspaper that's sat outside and has been rained on a little bit and the words get fuzzy, and you don't really recognize it, but you have to kind of strain. It takes a little more. And it's the same thing with voice. And if you get high definition voice, accents and things can be pulled out a lot easier, and you can make sense of them, and there's a great benefit in that. I also believe that as we go to an IP network, that it starts a path to higher quality than what we can see now, right? So the high definition voice of today, I think can even be a lot better. But once we get to an all IP network, we'll be able to improve. The FCC has put out for comments on changing from a circuit switch network to an all IP network. Another reason why I like HD voice. That's a huge shift, and I don't know how long that takes, and if it takes as long as inter-carrier compensation reform, it's going to be a while before we see that happen. But AT&T has actually jumped in and is making comments on how this could be done and what things need to be looked out for. So what I'd like to do now is tell you a little bit about my 2 cents as far as HD voice. And the reason why I say 2 cents is because I mentioned that I made access revenue from the PSTN. And back in 2006, I'd make about 2 cents on every minute from access revenue. And that if we go to an IP network, one of the things they're looking at doing is reforming inter-carrier compensation exchange and access. So it's a pun, 2 cents. The consumer wants to be completely connected. So what I'm seeing today is I'm seeing some HD networks come up, but they're not connected. Skype, you can talk to Skype in HD, but you can't talk to someone else in HD. There's some things happening now with some of these companies that are starting to connect with other companies and do some transcoding. But basically, as a whole, all HD companies are kind of working as little islands. Those of you that have HD phones in your office, you just get to talk HD with inside the office. There's not a whole lot of other endpoints you can talk to. The consumer is willing to pay for voice service. Right now, we somewhat believe that voice over IP is that voice is free, right? That the application is free, and I can understand that thinking. But the FCC put out in 2006, when I was getting my 2 cents, that the average toll charge for a telephone call was 6 cents. And that's why I asked the question today, how many of you guys are paying 6 cents or feel less than 6 cents? But the fact of the matter is, I would rather be able to call my wife and spend 12 cents than get in trouble for not calling her and suffer a divorce. It's inconsequential, the amount that we pay for voice. Quality matters, right? Quality matters. Security matters, right? And I believe that interoperability will have to happen. In other words, different HD networks speak in different codecs. And one group isn't going to necessarily want to give up their codec to deal with another, and nor would I want them to. When you think about it, HD voice and voice quality getting better, if we limit it to one codec and we say, hey, we're going to set a standard, right, it stifles innovation, right? Who is the next guy to bring up the next thing that makes voice better, right? And we don't want to stifle him from doing that. So interoperability will have to happen. And I think that there will be new revenue models in HD voice. Voice is an application for free. I'm just not feeling it. I know that right now you can call around the world using VoIP and talk for free, but there's settlement issues. In other words, how do I get a hold of you? How do I know what your number is? How does the number and the IP address that you're at connect? All that has to be registered, put somewhere, put in a registry, and when I make the call, I've got to tap that registry, and I've got to figure out, the phone system's got to figure out where you are and connect to you. Transcoding, right? Taking the one codec from one network and another codec from another network, meeting in the middle, breaking them down, mixing them together and sending them back, takes not only transcoding equipment, but it also takes holding the bandwidth, right? So right now when we look at VoIP, we see, you make a SIP connection and then the media goes however it goes over the internet. When you transcode, it's going to have to go to the transcoder. It's much like a two-person conference call. In other words, there's a middle that's serving the call and doing this transcoding function. I also believe in application rates. Obviously, I believe in application rates because that's how I've made my money with freeconferencecall.com. But if you think about it, it's very, very convenient. The texting for American Idol or texting donation to Haiti. Applications where I don't want to get in a taxi cab, right, and have to pay every toll along the way in New York. I want the cab driver to do all of that for me, and I want to pay the cab driver once. And so I think that there's a need as we go into HD voice to address the idea that these application rates could be billed along the way, and it could end up at one payment, making it simple again, right? Making it simple for the caller. Consumers desire the quality, and so I believe that's also a revenue stream in HD voice. Who's going to transport and carry these calls with quality, right? Stop that packet loss. Use dynamic jitter buffers at the transcoding to make up for network conditions. So I think it's more than just peering networks, right? So what I'm thinking we all should do is keep an open mind when it comes to connectivity of HD. I think a lot of people here probably haven't experienced HD, and there's going to be some opportunities to experience HD at this convention. The way that it connects, connecting to, there's a service called Voxbone now that's working with HD. There's XConnect that's doing transcoding and connecting to other networks. I think Skype and Voxbone made a deal together. But we need to put the customer first. I'm one who, if I'm left in my office just to think, right, I think the greatest features in the world, right? But I don't think for the customer necessarily, right? I think he wants everything, and I stack it up and stack it up and stack it up, and the fact of the matter is just like with the free conference call example, we try and pull people out of the old model with all the new fancy features, and they just don't go. So make sure your purchases of VoIP include HD. If you get a chance, buy a wide bridge from us and use free conference call. And I appreciate your time today, guys, and hope you enjoy Miami and the ITEXPO.
Thank you.